boys and girls. Happy last Tuesday of e-learning. That's so exciting. If you guys haven't done your assignment for today, I hope you'll enjoy it. If you did do it, I hope you enjoyed it. I actually watched that video that Mrs. Winkle made, and I thought it was really, really, really cool. So even though we couldn't go to Marengo Cave, I hope you enjoyed that virtual field trip that we got to take. And also, happy birthday to our PETA. Happy summer birthday. I hope you enjoy your day today and that you have a great summer birthday. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So today, tomorrow, and Thursday, I'm going to make the read aloud a little bit longer. One, because you guys don't have that many assignments. And two, because I really want to finish the book. So I'm going to make it a little longer. You guys will have all weekend to listen to the read aloud if you want to. You'll have all day during the day. Again, and I told your parents this, Tuesdays, today's e-learning is the only thing that I'm checking, the only mandatory thing that you have to turn in. Wednesday and Thursday, you have some options that you can do on Canvas. Now, you do have to do your art and music, and I think you turn those in to Mrs. Lovelace and Mrs. Berkey, but I don't see those, so I don't know if you turn those in or not. So, all right, so let's go ahead and get started. The last thing that we read last week was all of the Queen's help was getting everything set up for the BFG to eat with Sophie and the Queen. All right. Fetch me, he whispered, the biggest jug you can find in the kitchen. A splendid 1-gallon porcelain water jug was brought in place of the giant's table beside the garden fork and the garden spade and the great sword. So much for the giant. Mr. Tibbs then had the footman move a small, delicate table and 2 chairs alongside the giant's table. This was for the Queen and Sophie. The fact that the giant's table and chair towered far above the smaller table simply could not be helped. All these arrangements were only just completed when the Queen, now fully dressed in a skirt and cashmere cardigan, entered the ballroom, holding Sophie by the hand. A pretty blue dress that had once belonged to one of the princesses had been found for Sophie to wear. And to make her look prettier still, the Queen had picked up a superb sapphire brooch from her dressing table and had pinned it on the left side of Sophie's chest. The big friendly giant followed behind them, but he had an awful job getting through the door. He had to squeeze himself through on his hands and knees with 2 footmen pushing him from behind and 2 pulling from the front. But he got through in the end. He had removed his black cloak and got rid of his trumpet, and he was now wearing his ordinary, simple clothes. As he walked across the ballroom, he had to stoop quite a lot to avoid hitting the ceiling. Because of this, he failed to notice an enormous crystal chandelier. What do you think's going to happen? Be thinking in your head right now. I don't think it's good. Crash went his head right into the chandelier. A shower of glass fell upon the poor BFG. Gunghummers and bogswinkles, he cried. What was that? It was Louis XV, the Queen said, looking slightly put out. He's never been in a house before, Sophie said. Mr. Tibbs scowled, which means he probably wasn't very happy. He directed 4 footmen to clear up the mess. Then, with a disdainful little wave of the hand, he indicated to the giant that he should seat himself at the top of the chest of drawers on top of the grand piano. What a fizz-whizzing, flush-bunking seat, cried the BFG. I is going to be bug as a snug in a rug up here. Does that sound like anything you guys know? That's something I tell Ella, snug as a bug in a rug, but he mixed the words up. Does he always speak like that? the Queen asked. Yes, quite often, Sophie said. He gets tangled up with his words. The BFG sat down on the chest of drawer piano and gazed in wonder around the great ballroom. By gumdrops, he cried. What a spliffling wopsy room we is in. It is so gigantuous I is needing bicirculars and telescopes to see what is going on at the other end. Footmen arrived, carrying silver trays with fried eggs, bacon, sausages, and fried potatoes. At this point, Mr. Tibbs suddenly realized that in order to serve the BFG at his 12-foot-high grandfather clock table, he would have to climb to the top of it on one of the tall step ladders. What's more, he must do it balancing a huge warm plate on the palm of one hand and holding a gigantic silver coffee pot in the other. A normal man would have flinched at the thought of it, but good butlers never flinch. Up he went, up and up and up, while the Queen and Sophie watched him with great interest. It is possible they were both secretly hoping he would lose his balance and go crashing to the floor. But good butlers never crash. At the top of the ladder, Mr. Tibbs, balancing like an acrobat, poured the BFG's coffee and placed the enormous plate before him. On the plate, there were 8 eggs, 12 sausages, 16 rations of bacon, and a heap of fried potatoes. What is this, please, your magister? The BFG asked, peering down at the Queen. He has never eaten anything except snozcumbers before in his life, Sophie explained. They taste revolting. All right, I'm going to go back a couple pages here before I forget these pictures. This was the BFG running into the chandelier. If you don't know what a chandelier is, it is a light that hangs from the ceiling, but there's a bunch of like crystals that hang down from those lights. And then this is Sophie and the Queen and Mr. Tibbs. And then, of course, the BFG sitting at his big table with Mr. Tibbs climbing up the ladder. Well, they don't seem to have stunted his growth at all, the Queen said. The BFG grabbed the garden spade and scooped up all the eggs and sausages, bacon, and potatoes in one go and shoveled them into his enormous mouth. By goggles, he cried. This stuff is making snozcumbers taste like swatchwallop. The Queen glanced up, frowning. Mr. Tibbs looked down at his toes and his lips moved in a silent prayer. That was only one twitchy little bite, the BFG said. Is you having any more of this delunctious grubble in your cupboard, Magister? Tibbs, the Queen said, showing true regal hospitality. Fetch the gentleman another dozen fried eggs and another dozen sausages. Mr. Tibbs swam out of the room, muttering unspeakable words to himself and wiping his brow with a white handkerchief. The BFG lifted the huge jug and took a swallow. Now remember, this is coffee that he's drinking, okay? Ouch! He cried, blowing a mouthful across the ballroom. Please, what is this horrible swig pill I is drinking, Magister? It's coffee, the Queen told him. Freshly roasted coffee. It's filthsome, the BFG cried out. Where is the frobscottle? The what? The Queen asked. Delumptious, fizzy frobscottle, the BFG answered. Everyone must be drinking frobscottle with breakfast, Magister. Then we can all be whiz-popping happily together afterwards. What does he mean? The Queen said, frowning at Sophie. What is whiz-popping? Sophie kept a very straight face. BFG, she said, there is no frobscottle here, and whiz-popping is strictly prohibited. Forbidden. What? Cried the BFG. No frobscottle? No whiz-popping? No glumptious music? No boom, boom, boom? Absolutely not, Sophie told him very firmly. Well, if he wants wants to sing, please don't stop him, the queen said. Okay, so he was talking about music. Does the Frobscottle make music? No, it doesn't. He said he doesn't want to sing, Sophie said. Well, he said he wants to make music, the queen went on. Shall I send for a violin? No, your majesty, Sophie said. He's only joking. A sly little smile crossed the BFG's face. Listen, he said, peering down at Sophie. If they isn't having any Frobscottle here in the palace, I can still go whiz-popping perfectly well without it if I is trying hard enough. No, cried Sophie, don't. You're not to. I beg you. Music is very good for digestion, the queen said. When I'm up in Scotland, they play the bagpipes outside the windows while I'm eating. Do play something. I has Her Majesty's permission, cried the BFG, and all at once he let fly with a whiz popper that sounded like though a bomb had exploded in the room. The queen jumped. Whoopee! Shouted the BFG. That is better than bagpipes, is it not, Magister? It took the queen a few seconds to get over the shock. I prefer the bagpipes, she said, but she couldn't stop herself from smiling. During the next 20 minutes, a whole relay of footmen were kept busy hurrying to and from the kitchen, carrying third helpings and fourth helpings and fifth helpings of fried eggs and sausages for the ravenous and delighted BFG. When the BFG had consumed his 72nd fried egg, Mr. Tibbs sidled up to the queen. He bent low from his waist and he whispered in his ear, Chef sends his apologies, your majesty, and he says he has no more eggs in the kitchen. Well, what's wrong with the hens? The queen said. Nothing's wrong with the hens, your majesty, Mr. Tibbs whispered. Well, then tell him to lay more, the queen said. She looked up at the BFG. Have some toast and marmalade while you're waiting, she said to him. The toast is finished, Mr. Tibbs whispered, and Chef said there is no more bread. Well, tell him to bake more, the queen said. While all this was going on, Sophie had been telling the queen about everything, absolutely everything in her visit to Giant Country. The queen listened, appalled. When Sophie had finished, the queen looked up at the BFG who was sitting high above her. He was now eating a sponge cake. Big friendly giant, she said. Last night, those man-eating brutes came to England. Can you remember where they were the night before? The BFG put a whole round sponge cake into his mouth and chewed it slowly while he thought about this question. Yes, Magister, he said. I do think I is remembering where they said they was going the night before last. They was galloping off to Sweden for the Sweden sour taste. Fetch me a telephone, the queen commanded. Mr. Tibbs placed the instrument on the table. The queen lifted the receiver. Get me the king of Sweden, she said. Good morning, the queen said. Is everything all right in Sweden? Everything is terrible, the king of Sweden answered. There's a panic in the capital. 2 nights ago, 26 of my loyal subjects disappeared. My whole country is in a panic. Your 26 loyal subjects were all eaten by giants, the queen said. Apparently they like the taste of Swedes. Why do they like the taste of Swedes? The king asked. Because the Swedes of Sweden have a sweet taste and a sour taste. So says the BFG, the queen said. I don't know what you're talking about, the king said, growing mad. It's hardly a joking matter when one's loyal subjects are being eaten like popcorn. Well, they've eaten mine as well, the queen said. Who's they, for heaven's sakes? The king asked. Giants, the queen said. Look here, the king said. Are you feeling right? Well, it's been a rough morning, the queen said. First, I had a horrid nightmare. Then the maid dropped my breakfast, and now I've got a giant on the piano. You need a doctor, quick, cried the king. Oh, I'll be all right, the queen said, but I must go now. Thanks for your help. And she put down the phone. Okay, so the king of Sweden thinks the queen is what? If you're thinking, he probably thinks she's going a little crazy, right? She's saying that there are giants eating their people and that there's a giant sitting next to her right now, right? So he's probably thinking, she's not feeling okay. Your BFG is right, the queen said to Sophie. Those 9 man-eating brutes did go to Sweden. It's horrible, Sophie said. Please, please stop them, Your Majesty. I'd like to make one more check before I call out the troops, the queen said. Once more, she looked up at the BFG. He was eating donuts now, popping them into his mouth 10 at a time like peas. Think hard, BFG, she said. Where did those horrid giants say they were galloping off to 3 nights ago? The BFG thought long and hard. Oh, I remember. Yes, I is remembering. Where? Asked the queen. One was off to Baghdad, the BFG said, as they is galloping past my cave. Flesh Lump-Eater is waving his arms and shouting at me, I is off to Baghdad, and I is going to Baghdad, and Mum and every one of them 10 children as well. Once more, the queen lifted the receiver. Get me the Lord Mayor of Baghdad, she said. If they don't have a Lord Mayor, get me the next best thing. In 5 seconds, a voice was on the line. Here is the Sultan of Baghdad speaking, the voice said. Listen, Sultan, the queen said. Did anything unpleasant happen in your city 3 nights ago? Every night, unpleasant things are happening in Baghdad, the Sultan said. We are chopping off people's heads like you are chopping parsley. Well, I've never chopped parsley in my life, the queen said. I want to know, has anyone disappeared recently in Baghdad? Only my uncle, the Sultan said. He disappeared from his bed 3 nights ago, together with his wife and 10 children. There you is, cried the BFG, whose wonderful ears enabled him to hear what the Sultan was saying to the queen on the telephone. Flesh Lump-Eater did that. He did that. He went off to Baghdad to bag Dad and Mum and all the little kittles. The queen replaced the phone. That proves it, she said, looking up at the BFG. Your story is apparently quite true. Summon the head of the army and the head of the Air Force immediately. All right, so I'm going to stop there and we will finish the next, the rest of it over the next 2 days. Okay, I hope you guys have a great Tuesday. And don't forget, so today you have the virtual field trip, this read aloud right here, and then you also need to do your PE, and then tomorrow you will have a choice of assignments, and then you'll need to do either art or music. And then Thursday, same thing, you'll have a choice of those assignments that are on your module, and then either art or music, whatever you didn't do on Wednesday. Okay, hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you later. Bye.